Okay, hello and welcome to the first episode of Lacrosse Culture Daily TV. LCDTV is a loose name that we're using to describe a bunch of videos that I got coming up, planned stuff outside of Back of the Bird and some of our other podcast chains and just stuff we want to do to talk about lacrosse. So what I want to do on Mondays is basically go through a college lacrosse game in a lot of detail. So we're going to pick one game a week, maybe two as we get going. This is inspired by Ryan Marsillo's Tales from the Couch. He's a great NBA writer for The Ringer. That's kind of what inspired this. And basically, I'm not going to have any guests on usually for this segment. I just want to pick a game, give you my thoughts on the game, in detail, and kind of go from there. The purpose of this is not to, really put my opinions on teams or players. It's to kind of help show what I think is happening on the field and maybe help viewers, watch the game in a different way and pick out some different things. So that's kind of the goal here. Today, I want to look at Virginia versus Michigan. A great early season non-conference game. Kudos to both teams for being willing to schedule such a tough game to start. It was a great game. I thought both teams played really hard. Obviously, some comments made in the media that I'm not going to really get into, but you could tell both teams were fired up, and that's how it should be. College lacrosse is the best, and you should be fired up, and it was physical. And I want to say, too, that the grass at Klockner is awesome because it just shows what time of year you're at. It kind of reflects the style of play, and early season a little bit messy. Grass is a little brown, and as the season gets going, everyone starts to get a little more polished, and that thing starts to get nice and green. So I just love how it kind of always reflects, where we're at in the college lacrosse season. So a couple big picture thoughts. The first one has to be that Virginia is just huge. They're massive. They extend all over the field. Their back line is I think 6'7", 6'6", 6'4". One thing I like to do after watching games is just look at the box score and highlight some things that jump out. Shots 54, 34 for Virginia. Shots on goal 30 to 26. Clears, Michigan failed 5. Virginia only cleared 1. I got something coming out later this week about clearing. And how the 10-man might not be the weapon it once was. And I think that even still maybe held up in this game. I think a lot of the mistakes were because of great riding plays by Virginia and sloppy stick work. Hard to tell on the broadcast camera without looking at the wide angle how much the goalie was really coming out of the cage for Virginia to make it a 10-man, but it seemed like it was mostly a classic ride. Michigan probably wants a couple of those back. Face-offs 21-11 for Michigan, or for Virginia rather. That's huge. Obviously, 2/3 is going to win you a lot of games. And most importantly for Virginia off those faceoffs was, first of all, there were juice plays, a lot of loose balls in there, a lot of tough ground ball battles, and then they created goals off them as well, which I think, you're going to give up goal to this UVA team as the season goes on. You got to try to limit them in the ways that you can in the faceoff, being one of them. Michigan was 2 for 2 on the extra man, a bright spot for them. And the turnovers were roughly even, which from a Michigan standpoint is actually, not so bad given that the faceoff differential. I thought the goaltending, Nunes was fantastic. We'll talk about that later. And then Hunter Taylor, I thought he held in there pretty well for Michigan as well. So I ended up counting how Virginia got their goals. So 19 goals. They had 5 in the Big Little. 7 in transition, so 4 true transition and 3 in the sub game, and then 7 in regular 6-on-6. So a lot of goals in a lot of different ways, and I think because of that, Michigan's going to look back at this and actually maybe feel a little bit better than they probably did after the game because, they could have stopped some of these goals, especially the transition ones, and I think that's going to be a theme throughout the year for Virginia is who can get them to 6-on-6. It might not matter. But if you get them in transition, it for sure is not going to go your way. Or if you allow them to get transitions, for sure not going to go your way. In part because they're awesome at it, and in part because it clearly fires them up. You can just tell on the broadcast. I think all college lacrosse fans know the feeling when Virginia gets going at Klockner, and it's usually off of clears or failed clears by the other team and subsequent transition, and it's hard to stop when that train gets rolling. Big thoughts on the game. Schematically, Virginia just attacks you all over the field. Transition sub-games were awesome offensively. They come right at you. And defensively, they extend all the time. You can't tell on the broadcast, but I think there's probably lots of times throughout the game when there was no Virginia defender in the paint, as we like to call it, or close to the net. They were extending all over the place. They were awesome on the perimeter. It really made it hard for Michigan to move the ball. And one of the reasons they're so effective on the perimeter is because of that length. Really hard to back cut those guys. You have to really burn them to get open because you got a 6'7" player with a 6-foot stick in his hands, and he covers a lot of ground both ways. So they're in lanes, pressing out, and then the traditional teaching point is to back cut them. Makes it hard when the player is so tall, and you really have to burn them to get open. You got to get to settle D against Virginia. That seems like the key. Again, it might not help, but it might. And the sub games and the transition were key. And you got to have two guys who can cover. I think that's pretty clear already. Schellenberger and McCabe-Millen were both super aggressive, and they seem like they're both top end. Obviously, they're top end. Dodgers, and you really have to have two guys who can sit down and play in their stance and manage through picks and really cover the ball. And I think if you don't have that, you're going to be in trouble. I got some articles coming out this week about trends in NCAA lacrosse, and I talk a lot about big little play, but one of the trends that didn't make necessarily an article was having two Dodgers and two cover guys. I think every good team now has someone who's awesome at both. It's the teams who can have multiple guys who can draw slides against long sticks and who can cover the best guys. And I think Michigan's guys did a pretty good job of that, but you got to have two guys on Millen and Schellenberger who are really prepared to cover the ball, and that's going to be a test, for a lot of teams. And then, one of the things that I'm kind of thinking about this college lacrosse season is I watch a lot of basketball, and in basketball now they switch a lot of picks, and I'm curious, if the switching revolution is going to kind of come into college lacrosse. Obviously, we have a shot clock now, so you don't have to play for that for as long as you used to. So there's a line of argument that says if you switch, you just have to hang on till the end of the shot clock. Obviously you don't want to be giving up free switches, but I think a new way to think about it, especially when teams are as loaded offensively as Virginia is are you going to cover the short stick guy? Can you cover him anyways? So they got a couple goals off of Griffin Schutt's picks from Millen. Well, your short stick's probably not going to cover Schutz anyways. So you might as well just switch those picks. At least you're not going to give up something, on the actual pick and roll action, and you live to fight another day, or at least double it and try to flush the ball out of their sticks because Millen and Schellenberger, when they get shooting on the run coming up the hash, goalies just can't seem to pick it up. I think that's something that we know in lacrosse, but maybe not the full extent to is for whatever reason, goalies just have a harder time picking up those up the hash shots. So even if the actual shot comes from, not the best angle, when they're moving up the hash away from the goal, they seem to go in, especially this new wave of attackmen who have been shooting those shots all their lives. McCabe-Millen, his first game, he obviously was super confident, and when he gets those shots off with his hands free, it looks like it's going to be pretty dangerous. So let's talk about Virginia's defense. First of all, I think they double more than they slide. I think there's a lot of possessions where Michigan just wasn't drawing slides, and when they did draw slides, I think it was more players seeing opportunities to double team. And one of the things with that is if you're going to mirror guys or bring guys close to the ball against Virginia, it's tough because those slide players are so long that they get to your hands so fast. I actually had a chance to be around John Schroeder the year after I graduated Cornell. I coached a club team. John Schroeder played for us along with Hunter Taylor, the goalie for Michigan, and a bunch of other players. It was a cool opportunity for me to be around some of the best players. He was the best defenseman we saw that summer, and he might be one of the best defensemen in the country already as a redshirt freshman, and he was dynamic in this game. But if you get close to these guys against Virginia, they're going to get in your hands and you're going to ruin your day. So I think going forward, I'm curious if teams get rid of the mirrors and the throwbacks against Virginia and just start spreading the field out as much as they can, because the gaps against Virginia don't make any sense that do make sense against other teams because all their guys are so long, and it takes about 3 minutes of watching them play to realize that every one of their defenders has the green light to try to put the ball on the ground, and most of them are pretty good at it. I thought the short sticks for Virginia were awesome as well. You have number 5, Terenzi, 34, Chismar, and 23 Chase Yeager. I thought all those guys were awesome. Thought they were great in transition. Obviously I keep talking about the length of this defense. The long sticks are going to be pretty good. The natural thing is to go after the short sticks. I thought they held up really well. I think that's going to be a subplot to watch all year, really, with all these good teams. I think I got an article coming out tomorrow about trying not to slide. I think that's going to be a trend you see across the country. Obviously that depends greatly on your short stick play, and specifically they did a really good job of keeping Michigan's Dodgers down the alleys, and that I think was important. That brings up another topic off of those alley dodges. Is Virginia was switching a lot of them. They would have their short stick kind of wait, or they would have a player waiting back in the low wing. So when the Dodger went down the alley, they would just switch it. Obviously they didn't seem too concerned with matchups. I thought that was a really interesting decision by them, and I thought a very effective one as well. They just didn't give up any really important opportunities off of these alley dodges, and if you like your short sticks, switching those matchups, I think is a good strategy, and I'm curious if other teams might do that more. Again, I'm just watching switches all year to see what teams are doing. If you're going to pick against Michigan, you got to hit good picks, and you got to pick them hard. I think the slips, coming off a pick and throwing back is so hard or against Virginia rather, coming off picks and throwing it back is really tough because of the length. If you're going to set picks, got to set them hard, try to get your best players on the short sticks, and then you got to go to work. I think 5 for Michigan, Michael Boehm had a great take late in the game. He got on a short stick and he went as hard as he could. Nice crease dive across the net. I think that is the blueprint for getting after this Virginia team. I think one thing they're going to kill all year is hesitancy. You can't be hesitant because they're so long and they're so aggressive. You got to go at them as hard as you can and try not to let them speed you up. And then beyond all that, Nunes was awesome in the cage. Michigan had some good looks early. Michigan did a good job of working off ball all day. They set some really good picks, I thought, in front of the net, and was pretty good at hitting those cutters coming off the crease. And Nunes was awesome, especially was good in the low angle, which I think is going to be big for them. Obviously, if they can do a good job on ball and push people down the alley, you need your goalie to be stout in the low angles, and he was. I thought that was impressive, and that's a really good sign for Virginia. Switching to the Michigan offense really quick, I thought it was pretty good. I think having to be the first or second team to go after this Virginia team is tough. It's going to take a while to figure that defense out. Again, I thought they were really slick at finding cutters. Key for them, I think, is trying to get in the offense a little quicker, especially against teams who really don't slide to those high wing dodges. How do you get in the offense quicker, and how do you maybe get the ball behind the net quicker? And I think there's going to be some opportunities to try to find other ways to initiate offense against teams like Virginia as well, whether that's through a pass or through some sort of front side window dressing type dodge or whatnot. But how do you get into it quicker? And then you got to figure out how to get these guys off your butts on the perimeter. I thought Virginia just pressed out all the time, and there's many times where I'm sure there's 4, 5, 6 guys on Virginia who are outside of the box, and it's really tough to run offense like that. But I think Michigan might feel better about this when they watch the film than right after the game. Okay, switching sides to the other side of the field. Virginia offense, the transition still gets them going. They're awesome at it. It fires them up. It gets them free goals. They score in transition. They score in the sub game. They score off face-offs. They score off failed clears, and it just really fires them up. And it's tough. One of the reasons is, you can't slide off any of those guys in transition. Looks like they have Schellenberger and Cormier on the wings. Take your pick with those guys. And we know that if you slide off or if you take those guys away, McCabe Millen scores 5 in his first game, and he looks pretty dynamic as well, and he could certainly shoot the ball with some range there. Schellenberger didn't shoot well, super aggressive. He's going to have some 9-10 goal games this year. He could have had them yesterday. I think not shooting well early in the season is a nothing burger. I don't think it matters at all. He's awesome. He looked awesome. He will be awesome. Millen was super aggressive. Great shooter. Shooting from range I think is really going to help him. Him and Schellenberger scored 4 of the first 5 or 6 goals off, good pick set and just coming off those picks and letting it fly. I think that's going to be the bedrock of the offense for Virginia. I think they got above the goal a lot in the second half, maybe trying some new things. I think when the chips are down, it's going to be a lot of big little picks for those guys and trying to get them running off and letting them do what they do, which is shoot the ball, among other things. I have no problems with Millen getting up, talking some shit. It was a cheap shot. I don't have really any issues with the hit or with talking shit or with all of Virginia's guys coming in and protecting their freshmen too. I thought it was just a hard game. One thing I did want to address as well is, in basketball a lot, you have these players who have faults and, people try to offer, certain coverages as a way to combat these players. And the great players, there's often some sort of underlying, ruthlessness to their game that makes it hard to do that. There's going to be people out there who, as the year goes on, because this offense is so dynamic, suggest putting a short stick on Peyton Cormier. If you do that, he's going to put your short stick in the net. He's going to bull dodge him, he's going to step off, and he's going to let it fly. He did it to the Poles in this game. He was awesome, as he always is. You need to find him in transition, and you just need to stick to him at all times because it looks like Boyden's got the eyes for him early in the season and just throwing skip passes through, and it feels like there's so many ways this team can kill you. When you give up a skip pass to an easy shot, it's tough, but it's going to be really hard to put a short stick on him, even though I'm sure that that dialogue will come down the pike soon. That seems to be what we do with Canadian attackmen, even though it doesn't always work. I thought they also dialed up some great set pieces. Credit to Coach Cassis for that. Out of timeouts, they were really effective. They ran a flip pass play for a backdoor screen that got them a goal and got them a good look twice. And they wrote, I thought, a really creative play where they screened up a player coming away from the goal just to use him as basically a pivot guy for the ball. So it went into Boyden, who came off a screen, and then a little bit of a wall pass to the back door. So when you take all of this stuff into account, those set plays are really important because there's so many ways you feel like you can't stop them that when they scheme up one, it gets extra difficult. On that note, Boyden, 2 goals, 3 assists. He was slick. He was awesome. Kind of as advertised. I think behind the back goal, a flip shot goal. I think the feeds were really important as just like when you feel like you got this team, you got someone who can kind of throw a little bit of a change up in there. And then my last note, again, in big games, I think they're just going to run big little all the time. I think they're really good at it. I think they're going to force teams to be really good at it defensively. And, I think that's going to be the look for Virginia when the chips are down here. Switching to the Michigan defense, number 14, Whitney, he was great. I thought, probably no one on Michigan defense is feeling awesome about it after giving up 19 goals. But I think, that's 14, Jack Whitney. I thought he held up really well on Schellenberger, navigated picks pretty well. Michigan seemed to figure out the pick and rolls a little bit better in the second half. If you give a light chip to guys like Millen and Schellenberger, they're as aggressive as it comes in Division I. They're going to run right through it. So you got to get a body on them, you got to switch it, or you got to really step out and put a cross check on them and try to turn them back. And I thought Michigan did that well in the second half. I've mentioned it before. I don't want to be a broken record, but they got to find a way to get it 6-on-6. The sub-game goals are going to kill them. Face-off goals are really tough. And, again, their short sticks, I think, are really good. Bo Pettersson was awesome at Princeton. He's a very good player, curious. If they kind of start to unleash him in the big little plays, even more because they have a weapon that maybe not all the teams have. And, so just got to fix the easy looks. And I think, this score might not be reflective of Michigan for sure. I think they're good. I think they'll be just fine. I think playing Virginia at Klockner early in the season is tough. Again, once the train gets rolling, it's difficult. So alluded to it many times. Got lots of good stuff and NCAA related coming out on lacrosseculturedaily.com this week. This will go out on YouTube. Might go out on podcasts as well. We're just trying a bunch of new things this year. Let me know what you think. Let me know how we can improve this. And chat with you next time.